Welcome back on the Leaders Who Care. I'm really pleased and privileged today to welcome our today's guest, Anatoly Spektor, serial entrepreneur, strategist, doer, and the guy who call when things hit the fan, as we say. So for over 15 years, Anatoly helped billion-dollar companies, leading startups, and even governments figure out how to run teams, scale operations, and grow when all else failed. So he built and sold six-figure agencies, scaled Amazon brands, and grown YouTube channels past million views, and run one of the world's top 3 business podcasts now. Anatoly spent his time helping purpose-driven leaders to grow and scale their businesses. His business is called Soul to Soul. I'll be actually challenging Anatoly on the hot seat on the growing narrative of purpose over profit, questioning whether this is genuine evolution or just a modern philanthropy rebranded for entrepreneurs who've already cashed out. Do only the privileged get to talk about impact while others are still stuck in the grind? Is this truly about serving others or just a new way to serve yourself? So we'll be questioning all this. As you know, my personal belief is really to uncover the true leaders who care, and success really matters, of course. But we also on a mission to find how they achieved it. The how is equally important than just the end result. So that doesn't reflect my own views. It's not to put people in a bad spot, but I'd love to uncover the deepest insights that actually everybody's questioning and really get a lot of value for the audience. That's our promise, to get the unfiltered insights. I'll be stepping into that character of really being skeptical and asking all those uncomfortable questions.
Amazing. Let's go.
Well, let's get into it. Anatoly, I'm seeing this shift a lot at the moment: profit to purpose, profit for purpose. There is a lot of noise around, especially about choosing purpose over profit. But let's be honest here. Is this a shift really about impact, or is it a modern philanthropy dressed up for entrepreneurs who've already made their money?
That's a great question. I like to define terms because when you say the word purpose, for 100 people, purpose means different things. So
Yeah.
I'll ask a question to you first, and then I'll say my opinion, because we both are very used to this word. But what does purpose means to you? How do you define that?
Well, I think purpose is very important, right? But for me, is that unique. If I use purpose, linked very closely to fulfillment. For me, purpose or fulfillment means to serving really the purposes of what we've been created. For me, God, Jesus have given us, blessed us with a life, serving the purposes of what we've been created. And living an effective life. So fulfillment or purpose is the joy and that's derived from living an effective life, serving the purposes of God, what He blessed us with, and being a blessing to humanity. So really using our gifts and talents to be a blessing for others, but we need to understand what these are, what's God's mission plan for our life. That's, to me, is personally what I found fulfillment and purpose.
Amazing. I like to define, because to me, like I'm very analytical and I go into rabbit holes when I don't. So I was thinking deeply what the purpose means to me for a while, and if I can dissect it to like one sentence, I would say that purpose is the reason you keep showing up when it's not being fun. And this is what I see. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who say they're purposeful, but as soon as it gets hard, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to switch to something else. And to be honest, I did that many, many times. So I'm not immune to anything. Everything I say, I did myself. And I learned that if you keep showing up when things stop being fun, it means there's something else that's driving to you. Because when you go through pain, I think Elon Musk shares the quote that entrepreneurship is like eating glass and looking at abyss.
But
So
isn't
that
that
is,
discipline? That some people can say that's a good discipline. You can still show up. You can train when you don't like to train. That's a good discipline, right?
yeah. But if you do that, it's bigger than yourself. I think to me that's super important. Like, okay, you don't have to go train. Like in general, you can go sit down and don't train. You don't have to you can choose a work to be an employee, you can choose a business to just make money, but at some point when things get really hard or you when you get enough money, what keeps you going is a question. And to me, the answer is serving others. And I learned it very hard way. I was very skeptical through my life. I was building businesses where I just did it purely for making money. And I learned that I have money, but I'm completely unhappy. So I kind of eat my own poison when I'm like, now I understand that for even for my own reasons, for me to feel happy, whatever it means, I like to define it more peaceful. For me to feel peace inside, it has to be more than just me. Because when things are really, really hard, I switch. And I
Hmm.
believe that is very important in business. So yeah, that's my definition, but I'm happy to go with yours as well.
No, I appreciate that. Especially you mentioned something very important. Probably one of the most important things in life is peace. I wouldn't say happiness because happiness is what is that? Like there's a joy you might, you got to experience good and bad in life. Life is life, right? You
Yeah.
got to go through all this. If you don't have bad, you won't know what happiness is. If you're constant a state of happiness, and I think a lot of people chase comfort, chase convenience. They just and I think, to be honest, that's one of the issues, and as you mentioned, and you call it something interesting, serving others, right? Serving, it's all about being blessing to humanity or being helping others. It's like a good tree or any tree that produces fruit, like meaning you give something, you produce value, right? Cannot eat its fruits. You can't
Yeah.
eat your fruits. Somebody else needs to eat it, because if nobody eats it, your good fruits is gonna rotten. So you're gonna give fruits again next year. So I think you're absolutely spot on, and that you gotta basically, yes, give good fruits, give fruits to, and but also those fruits to be a blessing to others, blessing to humanity, blessing to
Yes.
serving, helping. And then that will give, and if you do it in a way that is not compromising not only ethical values, even um, you don't walk over dead bodies. You're not just basically squeezing people, bankrupting businesses just because you see you can clearly to make more money. I mean, there's certain things that will give you more joy and fulfillment when you actually
Yeah.
help others, when you help the
If
community.
you think about gift giving, like when somebody give gifts to you, you feel uncomfortable and like, I don't know, do I deserve it? But when you give gift to others, you have this feeling of like, wow, I feel so in peace. I feel so accomplished that I'm able to provide something to somebody else. And it's a
Mm.
completely different feeling to give than to receive. And
Yep.
it's counterintuitive because everything in the world tells you that you need to take. Like if you look at it, you need to consume, 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 consume. But once you create, and once you give, then when people receive it, you have completely different feeling inside. And to me, that feeling, when you can tune into that and make that a rush instead of consuming, like you have a rush of endorphins when you consume. If you can have a rush of endorphins to give, then I think you are in a way better spot in the end. And this is what ultimately leads to peace.
I have maybe a slightly challenging question here for you, which is exactly the purpose. But isn't that also focus on yourself? Because giving, when you grow, you feel really alive, feel fulfilled. When you start giving, you feel 10 times more alive, right? So you feel like
Yeah,
even better. But then if you give, do you do it just for your sake or for someone else's to feel?
it's a very good point. I I believe that we all are selfish in nature, by nature, and a lot of most things we look at the perspective of how does it makes us look, and
Not
it's
really. I
nothing.
don't think all. I don't think always. I completely disagree. I mean, when
Okay.
Jesus gives us an example, he wasn't selfish in nature. He came to give his life. So we've got a role model, and he came in human form. So technically, yes, we have mindset. If you call it, I don't call the people of selfish, not selfish, because it depends on their mindset. Because body is a body, like their mindset. But I've seen some incredible people that really are not selfish at all.
Of
So I
course.
don't. We all
But the thing is that the reason Jesus is an exception and we know Jesus and we talk about Jesus so much is because other people want to be like Jesus. And it's because
well,
most of us are
exactly.
not.
That's the role model that personally is the most inspiring. But also, yes, you're right. You may not be as close to him, but there are such examples that.
Of course.
But let's say you're more rare. Maybe you're right in to say that majority or big part, a lot of people with a mindset, I would say, because I don't call them just selfish people, with a selfish mindset or belief.
I really believe like if you choose a path, let's say you can choose a two path and you are a bit of a selfish person, whatever it means, it's way better to choose a path when you can make others' lives better by association, making your life better than you just sit and just take. So for me, uh, it's a good it's a good mental model to essentially do like get something for you by serving others. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if somebody would choose between two paths,
That's
I,
actually
I find that this path is as challenging, but is also many people make it work. I believe I am making it work now.
I think when I look at a lot of leaders, and to be honest, we're working ourselves to become obsolete. We shouldn't be a thing called leaders who care. Every leader should care, in my view, to be honest. But a lot of leaders who truly care about others is often the ones who are helping, giving, and helping others to grow, giving really their best to businesses, to communities. But what's really interesting, and this is from scripture, from the spiritual realm. If we talk about giving, opens the door of receiving. So it's not designed by you and I. It's just a principle, a law that it
Yeah,
actually, the more you give, have you noticed, the more you start to receive, because
of course.
people just naturally attracted by the fact that you can give. But you're now advocating for impact, and but your early success was built on hustle, scale, and systems. So
Yes.
how do we know this new mindset isn't just a privilege talking? Why should someone still in the grind believe this pivot works for them too?
Yeah. Well, I do believe, first of all, that people change, because if we don't believe that people change,
Oh yeah,
then
believe me.
then
Anyone can
everything
change
else.
my mind. I've seen that even in their 70s, as long as
Yeah.
there's leverage for them
And
and real.
I also believe in what's called hero's journey. So there's a path when you reach certain moment where you like, because I was living in Toronto in a penthouse, driving very expensive car and being completely unhappy. So I was like, what is it? Why am I so unhappy? Then I'm like, maybe I should run marathons. I tried running marathons and I did triathlons and I was like, maybe I need to travel around the world and live in different places to be happy. And it's still nothing of that worked. So I lived a dream of like people that cannot even imagine what I did. And in the end, I was like, okay, I really don't understand. And then for me, the path was when I started meeting people here in Bali who didn't have much, but they were happy. And I'm like, or peaceful. Let's use the word peaceful because I also don't like the word happy. It's just in my jargon that I'm trying to
It's
remove it.
very interesting, and this is
And I I was completely novice in that. Like I did not even consider spirituality to be something I cared about too much. But then I think there's a lot of this purpose, whatever it means, comes from spirituality, comes from understanding yourself better, understanding that it's gonna be okay if you share, if you give. Um, and essentially that what happened to me at some point. I'm like, okay, when I share, when I serve other people, and I had the privilege to do it quite a lot here, I do feel better. I do feel more peaceful. So if you're saying, am I doing it for a selfish reasons? Yeah, in some degree, yes. But I also believe that it helps so many people with the skills I have to elevate them. That to me, that's a win-win. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it's very helpful, and I understand here. But you sold your Amazon brand and walked away from the demands of delivery. Was that moment of clarity, or just the luxury of someone who already made it?
Actually, I sold my Amazon brand because I understood that I cannot continue serving that way. It actually came right after. I didn't have to sell it. And I also stopped working with big governments and billion-dollar companies because I also understood I just cannot serve people who don't really care about what's happening. Like it's not a human to human connection. I was selling things on Amazon that I never consume myself, that people who I sold it to, I never seen them. I was just reading reviews. And to me, that was meaningless. And that made me decide to quit. I didn't have to do it. I was quite comfortable, but I don't believe it's a privileged thing. And again, if we talk about somebody who is sitting there listening and they're trying to make their ends meet and they're like, I don't know what to do. I believe that you should do whatever needs to be done to get to some level of peace. If that's for you working on a job that you don't like, well, do that. But also on a time where you have, think about your 10 years. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? And try to start changing very small things, even changing your diet, changing your mindset, reading some books. And eventually you'll get to the point where you realize that you cannot do that anymore. Like the life you're living, you can't continue that way. And when you do, you have to make a choice. And hopefully at that point, this person, and I'm talking about myself, have some kind of a clarity and also have some financial stability to make that leap, take that risk. And I mean, when I took a risk to close everything I had a wife, two kids. So for me, it wasn't also that easy to just say no because I was saying no to amazing opportunities. And I'm like, I just can't because I know that I can't live like that. And to me, I just don't really see how I would carry on, essentially. So that was just a moment where there was no other way.
Hmm. You said one of your biggest mistakes was avoiding pain in your 20s.
Yeah.
But how do you now balance that?
How do I now balance? I
When is
believe
pain
that,
a catalyst? Like
yeah,
when is it a signal to stop, I guess?
yeah. Again, I believe that there's different kind of pain. There are pain where you're doing something that you're misaligned with. So let's say you wake up in the morning and you're like, wow, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to wake up off the bed. I think that kind of a pain is a signal to change. There's other kind of pain where I actually feeling good about now, where I know what I'm doing, but I have these walls coming up and coming up and coming up. And I know that there's big opportunities if I cross that bridge. And to me, those are different kinds of pain. So I wish that I stayed the course where it was painful in my 20s and make the right choices. Where usually, when let's say you feel something is not right, but you decide to still continue, that's actually an easy way out. So you choose to. I feel pain. I don't like myself. I don't like myself in a mirror, but I keep going. I think this is avoidance. So it's actually making it easier instead of facing it and saying, you know what? Today I need to make a change. So I wish in my 20s when I realized I was working for some people who like I didn't really care. I just did it because they paid me well. I would take contracts with the companies that I didn't care. I would run businesses that I didn't really think deeply, why am I doing it? I wish I would just sit down and think and just say, okay, like journal or just have some thoughts about why exactly am I doing that? What is driving me?
But that may
Go
not be
for
a
it.
privilege of walking away. That may not be available to everyone, especially when they have other commitments from
Of course,
family, loans, etc.
I believe that, but you have one life. So yes, everybody's situation is different, but making small changes leads to big change in the end. So everybody is able to make a small change. Everybody can find half an hour to read a book. Everybody can find time when they're driving to work in traffic to listen to this podcast. So it's a choice. I truly believe that there is a choice.
Well, you're right. There's a small, often they say small changes
Yeah.
can make a big difference.
I,
What,
I can share you. You want me to share a quick story that made me
yeah,
actually think about that?
please
I
do.
was interviewed. Okay, so this is what changed my beliefs like the most. I was at a podcast and I was about to interview the guy, and he's like, "I can only come in the morning." I'm like, "No, no, no. I only do two slots. You can come here or here." He's like, "No, no, no. I'm okay. I can only come in the morning." I'm like, "Weird. Come." So he comes in, this big glowing guy with bunch of gifts. Give me some gifts. Nobody gives me usually gifts when we do podcast, but I was like, okay. So we sit down and he shares his story. And at the end, he's like, you know why I ask you to come in the morning? Because every day for 4 hours, I have seizures happening 10 years in a row. I lost everything having those childbirth like seizures. And he's like, I lost everything so many times. I don't have any personal life, but I still don't want to die. What I want to do is I want to build beautiful businesses. He built those amazing businesses, serving other people, helping them heal. And I'm listening to this guy and I'm like, I am like, this is one of the worst situations somebody can be at. And he still finds power uh, to do what he's meant to do. And I'm like, who am I to say that my situation is worse? And that made me think, and I'm like, I should not create any excuses anymore. And this really, really shifted me. When you see people doing the right thing and they are at the circumstances that are unbelievable to most people, they're like, if they can do it, there's nothing stopping me. And I want everybody to listen to think about that. And hopefully that might change some perspective.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. And there is also a saying, seek to understand before to be understood, right? If you really
Yes.
want to kind of put yourself into the other people's shoes, you will very likely, I mean, that's key to relationships. It's key to business, to many other aspects, and also just try to understand the mindset of others. I guess, for me, is always we as a principal and what we do in my own, obviously helping companies and leaders with building leadership and talent advisory strategies. We For us is we have one principle: we can't lie. So if we
Yeah.
don't believe in the mission, we just don't take it. We that's the truth sets you free. So in a way, I think it's very important to understand the other side, to believe in what you, and if you don't, you better be honest
Yeah.
because time is precious. You might as well do something else that could be equally, if not more important. So thank you for sharing that story. But do you think soulful business only works when you're financially secure? You know, what about the people who are still grinding to survive?
Yeah.
Does
So
your message still apply to them, or is it only for the post-exit privileged or elite?
yeah, and again, soul and soulful are also the terms that people misunderstand. To me, my business called Soul to Soul, but essentially to me that means personal and intimate. And how I came with that, again, there's a quick story. I was working from Bali and I was serving this very, very big company. And one day I'm sitting here. This is how my big realization came in. I'm sitting and listening to people like older gentlemen, and they're like, okay, now it was my turn. It's a conference call. They're all sitting in the suits, way more formal than yours. And I say things and they write those things down. They are older than me. They're probably in their 60s. They're VPs of some big company. And I'm sitting in my shorts in Bali. And I'm like, this is so surreal. There's nothing soulful in what I'm doing right now. Those people, we will never meet them outside of this work. We'll never share a coffee. We'll never share an interesting moment. And to me, that was wow. If I just stop doing this work, then everything is gone. Everything is gone. So for me, soulful business is actually finding people that you really want to serve, people who you care about. And to me, that was, if I don't want to serve this big bosses, why don't I serve my good friends? I met a lot of good friends here. Why don't I just help them grow their businesses? A lot of them are doing important things to the world. They are pretty small, but they have a good mission. And then helping them, allowed me to create soul to soul relationship with them, connection, and I would really care what they're doing. And I would be way more successful because I'm super invested in my friends doing well. So for many people, a lot of it comes to who are you serving? We always talk about what we are doing, why we are doing, but I think it's super important to get to a soulful state to find the real people and connect to them people to people level. And then I think the soulfulness will work no matter how big your business is. And I've seen it many, many times. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Anatoly. And I'm just really practical here and thinking about the audience. So just putting myself in the shoes for what would be your advice? So for founders who hasn't made it yet,
Yeah.
who's still stuck between stall and survival,
Yeah.
what is one practical way or steps, 2 or 3 steps you can share that they can bring meaning into their work today without losing momentum or their income?
Yeah. Well, I think getting back to what I said before is choosing your customer is important. So next time you're on a call with a customer, just just think, is that you have a good intimate relationship with a customer, you have a good vibe with a customer or not? That would be number one. Number two, look at your products and your offers and really think, is that something that I'm proud of or not? So a lot of this might be you have an existing offer, for example, but making it just better, just taking care of what you're doing, being proud of what you're doing
Yeah.
will get you close to a purpose. So putting like this extra percent what you're doing. Because I believe if people choose business, most of them, I believe that they do it for a reason. Something drives them to go every day and do this business. But often they just lost the drive that they start the business with. So they start with a great intention, and then when they get to the hard part, they realize, wow, I don't know if I continue going. So for that, my advice would be, first of all, it's hard for everybody. A lot of founders need to hear that. It's always stressful and it is hard. So there's nothing easy in business. But every time you go for a hardship, you go to a next level when it becomes way more interesting. And I believe they just need to keep going. I can give some practical advice in terms of how to make more money if you want, but yeah,
Yes,
just
please. Go, do share that. The audience will be definitely interested without compromising your soul.
okay. So I might look like when we consult the business, I actually look at the ways to make money without adding more offers. For example, I would look at things like your churn, how many people leave. Let's say if you have a recurring product, what you need to make sure is to touch point with your clients more, making it more soulful, like schedule the touch points with your clients. And the more the touch points you have, the less they leave because they feel hurt. So it's way easier to keep existing clients than to find new clients. The other thing is offer them more. So instead of trying, a lot of people are in this rat race to finding new leads, finding new customers. What you need to do is increase lifetime value of your customers. So figure out what else can you offer to this customer so they pay you more. And then A, you build a better relationship with your customers. B, you have more intimate connection, so it's more soulful, and C, you make more money. So I would say that. But of course, if I mean we can talk about lead generation, sales, and anything else as well. But I think those are easy things people do. Look at your numbers, your churn, and your lifetime value.
And the lifetime value of the customer. So
Yeah.
what is the client churn? How often you have to acquire new ones? How often they leave? It's about the customer churn or your people churn. Like what do you
It's
mentioned?
your, I mean, both. I would say both. But if you wanna really, if you
Yeah.
look at it making money wise, look at the churn of your customers. When do they leave, and what else can you offer for them to stay? So this is way easier because they already like you. They build a connection, and there's many ways to extend your offer.
Yes.
So if you offer something more. Things like what is the next step in the process that you can drive them through. Or, I mean, the other thing you can do is if you build better relationship with your customers, then you have a better system, and the next time you have a new lead, you can increase your prices because essentially, if you provide better service, by default they have more value, so you can increase your prices. A lot of people are afraid of doing that because they're competing with everybody else. So make sure you're offering something very unique to them that they cannot compare, and then provide amazing customer service to keep them as long as possible, and that would allow you to make money by association. Those are quick wins you can do.
Excellent. Anatoly, thank you so much for those insights and really sharing some of the stories in the journey. One last question for the audience. If you had unlimited resources and power to change one thing in the world, what would that be to make it a more caring, more positive world?
Wow, that's a tough one. I would remove distractions, honestly. I mean, I would just make sure to remove distractions and help people stay focused. Because I believe if people are focused,
I'm all
then
in to remove the distraction for the kids on the TikTok and the social
yeah,
media. We have positive distractions with play and more fun rather than just the technology. I
yes,
feel
yeah,
like
yeah. I mean
they
distractions that take from you and don't give. So I would substitute social media scrolling with a real life connection or conversations like that when you can really understand people and then build relationships.
Tony, thank you so much for the time you spent with us and sharing those insights and tips. If anybody is interested, I know you do help companies in advisory. Um, what should they contact you for, and how could they contact you for?
Yeah. I don't even have a website because people just know me and go for the word of mouth because we help businesses with purpose scale. Right now we're focused on B2B product businesses. So with my experience, I have experience in tech, in e-commerce, and my business partner with leadership coaching. So we help B2B product businesses to scale and grow. So how can you reach out to me if you are a 2 million plus business who wants to grow and scale? Yeah, you can DM me on Instagram and let's chat. Say that you've seen me from this podcast, and I'll give you a free call, and I'll try to help you as much as I can. So we can jump on a call. You can ask me questions, and I'll take my time to answer them for your audience.
Tony, thank you for giving this offer to the audience and everyone. Thank you for being part of Leaders Who Care in this journey. All the best to you, Anatoly, and
Thank you very much.
hopefully more positive things to see. And thank you for being a leader who care.
Same to you. Thank you very much.